presidents to represent me. I'm out for presidents to represent me. I'm out for presidents to represent me. I'm out for every old presidents to represent me.
Well, I was spit that Wonder Rhymer shit. Me and my conglomerate.
Hey now, what's up everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka ReviewKingMB, and I am continuing my Black History Month reviews, this time with Dead Presidents. Dead Presidents is a film that came out in 1995. It was directed by the Hughes brothers, and the plot of this movie, the movie's loosely based on the true story of Hayward T. Kirkland. There's an autobiography of him, so they took that story and made this story where we meet Anthony Curtis, played by Lorenz Tate. And at the very beginning, you see him as a young kid who doesn't really know what he wants to do in life. He doesn't want to go to college, though. He knows that, so he decides to join the military and fight in the Vietnam War. And these 4 years are pretty rough and brutal, but he survives it. He comes back home. He goes back to his girlfriend, Juanita, and they now have a daughter, so everything should be fine, right? Well, he can't really get a job. There's no real benefits for him, even though he was in the war. And just shit gets worse and worse until finally he's so desperate that he decides to steal some money and rob this truck that police are transporting money from point A to point B. He's going to rob them, and it doesn't go the best as planned. Now, what I think of Dead Presidents is, this is a very, very interesting movie. There's a lot of things I like about it, but it's not perfect. I do have some complaints. Let's talk a little bit about this. Lorenz Tate as Anthony Curtis. I remember, like, when I think of Lorenz Tate, I just think of him as being like one of the quintessential black actors of the 90s. He was this young kid who was just in everything almost, it seemed like. Watching him in this movie, he's fine. He does play, like at the beginning, the young, sort of confused, maybe a little naive kid, and seeing his transition from after being in the Vietnam War and how that kind of not so much fucks him up. I think he takes it the best out of the group that he's in, but it still changes him. It still hardens him. And I liked how when they showed them in the war, like it didn't just breeze by. They dealt with it. They showed a lot from it. They showed how brutal it was. It wasn't just some walk in the park. And certain people took it certain ways. But his relationship with his girlfriend, Juanita, you see them at the beginning. They're young kids, madly in love. But that kind of changes when he gets back. When he gets back, he's very upset just because since he can't get a job, he can't really provide for them the way he wants. They have a daughter now too. And with all of this going on, you meet Clifton Powell, who plays Cuddy. And he's some big shot type guy who kind of just comes in, and it's almost revealed that he's been taking care of his girlfriend and daughter while he's been gone. And it's like, well, what the fuck? What? There's a little weird dynamic with him and his girlfriend's sister, Delilah, who I don't want to say he had a thing for, but there's definitely a moment with them when he comes back and he sees her 4 years later. She's a little older, a little more attractive. And then obviously when he comes to developing this plan to steal the money, well, he has Delilah come in. So they had a connection, but they didn't really go too much further into it. The actress that played the sister, Delilah, I was looking at her, and the whole time I thought, she looks familiar. Like, where do I know her from? Of course, when I looked her up, she was in the first Blade movie. And I said, oh, now that makes sense. Speaking of some of the other actors in this movie, Chris Tucker is in this film as Skip. And I don't know how many movies Chris Tucker did up until this point, but it's funny that this whole film takes place in like the late 1960s, early 1970s. But the way Chris Tucker acts, he's so Chris Tucker. and he's all over the place. He's amusing, he's funny, of course. But I almost don't buy somebody in that time period acting the way Chris Tucker does. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe somebody did act like that. It's kind of funny seeing him just kind of be Chris Tucker. He had some interesting moments, though, not just being in the war, but having a drug problem once he got out, hooked on heroin and stuff. Sort of a little dark for anything I've seen Chris Tucker do. Keith David played Kirby, who's sort of the older guy that Lawrence Tate knew and maybe helped get into sort of doing dirty things on the side for money. Bokeem Woodbine plays Cleon, and in the war, he was this guy that was very brutal, vicious, willing to kill, and had some weird ritual of carrying around somebody's severed head and thought of it as good luck when they get back home. What do you know? He's now a preacher. And not only that, because hey, who knows? He went through some shit. Maybe he can come home and reform himself. Why not? But the second that they come up to him and tell him about this plan of stealing money, he's like, okay, I shouldn't be doing this because I'm, I don't know, a preacher. But how much money is it? Okay. You have Terrence Howard as just basically an asshole, which I'm sure Terrence Howard does very well at doing. Now, this movie, I guess my biggest issues ultimately was that it seemed like this movie was just sort of presenting events, showing us events in this person's life, and almost just putting us in moments in his life that led to him doing this big thing that, you know, it goes the way that it does. But I almost wanted to see why. Like, why did he want to join the military so bad? So Lawrence Tate's character makes some big choices, big decisions, and I wish we were in his head more. I wish we followed the movie with him more, because he is the main character. We are following him just almost an event wise, but we're not really understanding why he's doing all that he's doing. But I did like the end of the film where they do decide to rob this truck full of money, and mostly because that was the most high tension scenes of the film, and they kind of had a cool badass look to them with the white face paint. So, oh no, not bad. Not bad. Let me know in the comments below if you too have seen Dead Presidents. What do you think of it? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!